Today, we're going to crack open the Public Health Toolkit and see exactly how we make sure our defenses against disease are always ready for action.
So let's just dive right in with a huge question. We all count on these big systems to protect our health, but how do we actually know they're working? How can we be sure our public health watchdogs are really, watching?
Well, it all starts with something called public health surveillance. You can think of it as this giant early warning network. It's designed to spot disease outbreaks before they get out of control, which makes it our first and, frankly, most important line of defense.
But here's the thing. These super complex systems, you can't just set them and forget them. Nope. They need constant checkups, constant fine-tuning to make sure they're going to be effective when we need them the most. And that is what we're going to dig into right now.
So how do you monitor something that massive? Well, you do it with a very specific set of tools. We're going to look inside this public health toolkit and check out 6 key methods they use to keep an eye on our defenses.
So inside this toolkit, you've got a whole bunch of things. There's direct supervision, there's reviewing documents, and then there are structured conversations like focus groups and interviews with experts. Every single one of these gives us a different, really crucial piece of the puzzle.
And listen, this is absolutely key. These methods, they're not just about crunching numbers. These are qualitative tools. They're all about understanding the human side of the system, the people, the processes, and all the real-world challenges they're up against.
Okay, let's grab our first tool, which gives us what you might call a view from above, hands-on supervision. Supervision is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You have senior staff supporting and guiding the teams on the front lines. But it's so much more than just checking a bunch of boxes. It's about actively helping people do their jobs better and making sure everything stays on track.
And this isn't just some random pop-in, okay? It's a really structured 3-step process. First, the supervisors use a standardized checklist to see what's going on. Then, and this is the most important part, they actually sit down and talk with the staff about what's working and what's not. Finally, everything gets documented with clear recommendations so there's a roadmap for what to do next.
And the payoff for all this is huge. When you plan it out the right way, supervision isn't some extra expense. It turns out to be an incredibly cost-effective way to get reliable data for your day-to-day monitoring, and it comes straight from the source.
Okay, so supervision gives us that direct, on-the-ground view. But that's just one perspective, right? To really understand the bigger picture, you've got to talk to people. And that's where our next couple of tools come in handy: interviews and focus groups. Now, these two might sound kind of similar, but they're for totally different things. A focus group, that's where you bring together a small group of people who are actually doing the work. It's about a 90-minute guided chat to uncover their shared experiences. A key informant interview, though, that's a one-on-one deep dive with a specific expert who has that unique, high-level knowledge you need.
So who are these key informants? Well, we're talking about people who have a real bird's-eye view of the entire system. This could be the head of a surveillance unit, a national program manager, or maybe a district director of health services. These are the people who can see the whole forest, not just the trees.
And that's really the whole point here. Whether it's a group chat or a one-on-one, the goal is to get to the why behind the data. It's about capturing those critical insights, those little nuances that raw numbers and stats could never, ever show you on their own.
So we've got supervision on the ground, we've got expert interviews, but the real magic of this toolkit comes from understanding that one tool is just never enough. The real goal is to put all the different clues together.
And that's exactly why the toolkit has so many different things in it. You use methods like a systematic document review to back up what you heard in an interview or what you saw during a supervision visit. It's all about gathering multiple lines of evidence to build a really solid case.
You know, there's actually a cool name for this whole process. It's called triangulation. It's just a fancy way of saying you take all these different pieces of information from all these different sources and you merge them together to build a conclusion you can actually trust. It's so important because if you rely on just one source, you can get things horribly wrong.
And here's what it all boils down to. The final call on how well a system is performing isn't based on one person's opinion or one little data point. The conclusion absolutely has to be based on the results of triangulating data from all the available sources.
And that's really the big takeaway. The true strength of our public health monitoring doesn't come from any one single tool. It comes from the skill of combining all of them to build a complete, nuanced, and most importantly, an accurate picture of our defenses.
It's this complex, really human-centered process that's happening all the time, mostly out of sight. Which kind of leaves you with a final thought to chew on. What other invisible systems are out there working right now, every single day, to protect you.